Well, to discuss the US elections further, I'm joined by Professor Everisto Benyera. He's a political analyst. Thank you very much, Prof, for joining us. So given the highly contentious nature of this particular presidential election battle, presumably we're not going to know the outcome of the final decision anytime soon.
Good afternoon to you and to the viewers. Yes, indeed, it will take us some time to know the outcome of this hotly contested election. But what is most likely going to happen is that the election will go on, and if Donald Trump loses, there will most likely going to be the contestation of either the results themselves or some processes or another. But if Kamala Harris wins, I think she will concede faster than Donald Trump would do. However, the consequence of either a Donald Trump or a Kamala Harris election victory in the United States will be seen in how they treat the three wars, because this is the top of the agenda when they come into office on day one: the Russia-Ukraine war, the Israel-Gaza and Hezbollah war, and the war between the two generals in Sudan and Africa. This will be top of the mind for the two presidents, bearing in mind that whatever Donald Trump was promising on, he will obviously issue executive orders to put those election promises into effect.
Yes. So there are concerns, I mean, to the point that you were making earlier, there are concerns that we could witness the violent scenes that we saw in January 2021. Do you envisage that?
I do not envisage a violent protest to the electoral outcome or to the electoral processes themselves. But Donald Trump and his camp are used to questioning every bit and detail of a process and an outcome that does not go their way. However, I can hear the premise of your question, which is to ask me of the two candidates, which one is most likely to emerge victorious. For the first time in an election, no one is prepared to call out this election. However, given the nature of the split between these two candidates, I think Americans will vote more on sentiment rather than on policy. And if I am to put my neck on the block, I think Donald Trump is going to emerge victorious, not because he is the better candidate, but because conservative Americans will pronounce themselves more. And we should not forget the elephant in the room, which is that Kamala Harris is a woman. Secondly, she's an African. Thirdly, she's also of Asian origin. And we haven't forgotten how the same Americans rejected Hillary Clinton, who by that time appeared to be a better candidate than Donald Trump. So yes, we must not forget the issue of race, gender, and other imperatives in this election, Nompumelelo.
Yeah, no, that's quite a pity, but I get your analysis. Now, coming back to what you spoke to earlier, post the elections, whoever wins, can we expect a change in US foreign policy, particularly as it relates to the situation in the Middle East and the management, dare I say, of Israel?
Of the three top issues of the three wars that are going on in three continents, let's start with the one between Russia and Ukraine. During the campaign trail, Donald Trump is on record saying that he will stop that war within 48 hours. And I think that is not a threat. So how can he do it? Two things. Either he can talk to President Vladimir Putin directly and agree some sort of ceasefire that will then give way to a political negotiation where Ukraine will be required to cede some territory in exchange for some security guarantees from NATO and the United States, and then Vladimir Putin will also put on his stake on the negotiating table. So that is very possible for Donald Trump to do that. His relationship with Vladimir Putin is one that is not as bad as between Kamala Harris and President Putin. And then when it comes to the Middle East, it is more complex, because Benjamin Netanyahu does not have a tendency of listening to the United States. He's on record as saying that we are not a state of the United States. So that will be more difficult for Donald Trump to deal with. However, again, he can push the military industry complex in the United States who are funding and producing arms to do something about the slow reduction in the supply of arms, with the hope that this will reach a ceasefire. Bearing in mind that the military chiefs in the IDF have pronounced that they have reached their military goal both in Gaza and South Lebanon, and they are now waiting for politicians to finalize this by way of a peace negotiation. Then come to Sudan. That one is again a much easier solution for Donald Trump, because he can actually send in his envoys to sit down with the two generals, hear their differences, hear their points of agreements, and actually request them to end their hostilities. Because the Sudan war is in effect not a Sudanese war, but an extension of the Russia-Ukraine war. So yes, the question is Donald Trump going to follow through his election promises? For Kamala Harris, it's much easier for her to do that because it is more of the same. We expect a continuation of the current Joe Biden policies under Kamala Harris.
All right, Professor, we're going to leave it there, but thank you very much for your time and your insights. Professor Everisto Benyera, he's a political analyst. Thank you for your time, sir.